Don't wait up. I'm not coming home. I've started over with someone who sees me. That was the message I read, sitting alone in the corner booth of a 24-hour diner in Austin, Texas, at exactly 2:16 a.m. I am Matthew Langford, 51, a systems architect with a caffeine addiction and a habit of ignoring red flags. My wife, Elena, was supposed to attend a weekend wellness retreat in Sedona. Instead, she detonated 15 years of marriage with one text and a photo of a first-class ticket to Milan, booked under her name, and someone named Rafael Torres. Attached beneath the message was a screenshot, $127,300 wired from our joint investment account to a business account I'd never seen. My thumb hovered above the reply button, then returned to the table. I didn't write a thing. Not yet. I looked at the rain-streaked window beside me, the neon open sign flickering behind the glass, buzzing like it knew what was coming. People always think betrayal is loud, a slamming door. It was a screaming match. But when it hits, it's quiet, cold, precise. It's like code that deletes everything in one keystroke. I closed the banking app and pulled out my small spiral notebook. She didn't know it, but I'd been preparing for this. The change in passwords, the late-night check-ins. She suddenly cared about my schedule, like she needed to know when I'd be gone. She wasn't subtle, and I wasn't blind. That night, I didn't go home. I walked out into the Texas rain, my heart racing, but my mind was already calculating. This wasn't heartbreak. This was a hostile takeover. And I was ready to fight for what was mine. I met Elena Montrose 13 years ago at a tech conference in San Diego. I was 38, fresh off a quiet divorce, burned out but laser-focused on building Langford systems from the ground up. She was 34, an interior designer with a dazzling smile and an effortless charm that made the room lean toward her. I didn't stand a chance. Elena had this way of brushing off anything she didn't understand. My work in system architecture? Too many screens, she'd joke, as long as it pays the mortgage. And for years that was enough. I bought her a gallery space downtown, helped her launch her boutique design firm, and let her run wild with vision boards and custom fabric orders. When she wanted the lake house, we bought it. I booked the flights when she said Aspen would be available in the winter and Mykonos would be available in the summer. And yet, I always felt like a temporary tenant in the world she was building. The photos on the walls were hers. The playlist in the house? Hers. Even the friends, always her people. But I didn't complain. I was building something stable, something long-term. She was building a highlight reel. It wasn't until year 8 that the cracks began to show. First came the design retreats that got longer every time Santa Barbara, Tulum, Paris. Then, the fitness obsession. Reformer Pilates, juice cleanses, cryotherapy. Her wardrobe shifted overnight designer athleisure, flawless even at breakfast. And she'd stop talking when I entered a room, slipping her phone face down. I remember one night, my birthday, she came home from LA, 2 days late. No apology. They just handed me a new smartwatch and said, "I figured you'd like something that keeps up with you." It wasn't just cold, it was clinical. And I knew, in that moment, that she was already gone. Still, I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I started preparing. Quietly. Patiently. I rewrote our financial framework, restructured accounts, and created digital barriers. She didn't notice. She never asked. She never thought I was paying attention. But I'm a systems architect. My job is to see what others miss and predict where something breaks before it does. And Elena? She was leaving footprints in fresh concrete, thinking no one would notice. I noticed everything. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was heartbroken. Not yet. I stayed awake because I was shifting gears. From husband to strategist. From collateral damage to executioner. By 6 a.m., I was sitting at the edge of a hotel bed overlooking downtown Austin, laptop open, fingers moving with surgical focus. This wasn't guesswork. This was war prep. I logged into Langford Secure, a private financial system I'd built years ago initially to monitor client portfolios but slowly modified to track my layered network of holdings. With one command, I triggered Protocol Zeta safeguard I had designed in case of fraud, hostile takeovers, or betrayal. First, I locked every shared account, not just the main One Zeveri Microfund LLC and blind trust she didn't know existed. Then, I flagged the $127,300 wire transfer with my banker, labeling it as unauthorized pending investigation. Within minutes, her card was declined. Her access was denied. The house of cards had started to sway. Next, I uploaded a full incident report to my attorney, complete with timestamps, digital trails, and communications logs. Evidence. I wasn't just reacting, I was building a legal missile. At 7:15, I called my sister, Caroline. She's not just family, a litigation consultant with a sharp mind and no patience for BS. It's happening, I told her. Elena? She made her move. I'm making mine. You want fire or ice? She asked. I want precision. She was in. We'd talked hypotheticals for years, always half joking. Now, it was real. She forwarded me the name of a judge in Travis County who specialized in emergency asset injunctions, no time for slow plays. The sun was barely rising when I saw it in the mirror. Not rage, not heartbreak. Focus. Razor sharp and unblinking. She thought she'd walked away clean. She had no idea she'd just tripped a minefield. 2 days later, I parked outside a sleek, glass-walled co-working space in East Austin. I wasn't there for a meeting. I was there for confirmation. For weeks, Elena had been tagging a man named Rafael Torres in her posts, yoga shots, rooftop brunches, travel reels. Always business-related, always vague, but I knew better. I'd seen the way she smiled in those photos. It wasn't performative. It was personal. Inside his startup, Rafa Well, a wellness brand drenched in self-help sloganswas, buzzing with young energy and curated minimalism. Behind the filtered perfection, though, I had a hunch the numbers didn't match the vibe, and I was right. The night before, Caroline had uncovered Raphael's financials. 3 credit cards maxed. A lease on a Porsche he couldn't afford. Business debt disguised as expansion. And the kicker? Elena had co-signed on a $210,000 equipment loan, using our marital status to secure better terms. The documents listed me, Matthew Langfortis, a secondary guarantor. I couldn't feel my hands when I saw it. She'd signed my financial future over to a man who'd never built anything but an Instagram following. So I walked in. Raphael greeted me like a motivational speaker. Fake charm, firm handshake, too many veneers. You must be Matt, he said with a rehearsed smile. Elena told me all about you. I'm sure she did. I didn't smile. We need to talk. Privately. His office was modern, glass enclosed, sterile. I placed a folder between us on the table. This is every financial document connecting you to Elena. Loans, leases, credit lines all backed by my marital assets. None of it with my consent. He flipped through the pages. Slowly. Then stopped. His face lost color. This can't be right. It's airtight, I said. This means the moment our divorce is finalized, your guarantees dissolve. And when that happens, your lenders, they'll be knocking. What do you want from me? He asked, voice suddenly low. Nothing, I said. I just wanted you to know what's coming. You built your house on someone else's foundation, which is crumbling. I stood, paused at the door, and added, if you've still got anything of mine photos, Keepsakes knows the time to return them. He nodded wordlessly. By the next afternoon, a box arrived at my hotel. No note, just the watch my father gave me. Some old photos, a few things that mattered. She thought she could take everything. But I was just getting started. The next morning, I drove to my sister Caroline's home office in Cedar Park. Her dogs barked when I pulled up, but inside, the place was silent, except for fingers flying across a mechanical keyboard. The digital forensics rig she used for corporate cases was already humming. She was ahead of me. Grab coffee, she said without looking up. I found something. I didn't need caffeine. My adrenaline had been spiked for days. But I poured a cup anyway and leaned over her shoulder. Tell me. She clicked through layers of spreadsheets and PDF scans until one screen froze me in place. Here, she said, zooming in on a series of financial transfers. Over the past 11 months, Elena had quietly siphoned money from our shared account, small sums at first, $500 or $600, labeled as studio upgrades or consulting. But it added up. Nearly $86,000 had been funneled into Rafael Holdings, a shell LLC registered to Rafael Torres. She was moving the money before she ever sent that text, I said, my voice low. Caroline nodded. And not just that. She forged your digital signature on at least 2 loan applications. I stared at the screen. Every instinct I had screamed this wasn't just personal, it was criminal. Elena hadn't left me for another man. She'd conspired with him to bankroll a failing brand, using my name, credibility, and money. I'm adding loan fraud to the divorce filing, I said. and I want a forensic report we can submit in court. You'll have it by Monday. By that afternoon, my attorney had filed for emergency asset protection. All marital funds were frozen. Lenders were notified. The courts were alerted. Elena couldn't open a checking account without it pinging the system. That night, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. Back off. Elena deserves better. Don't make this ugly. Raphael. His bravado translated poorly over text. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I'd learned something in my career designing systems. The loudest systems are the weakest. The ones that hum quietly in the background. Those are the ones you never see coming until they bring everything down. She thought she'd broken me with a single text message. She didn't realize I'd spent the last decade building something more substantial than a marriage. I had built a firewall, and now it was hers to hit full speed. No warning, no escape. The next day, just before noon, I pulled into the parking lot of Raphael's studio flagship location Raphael had opened a few months earlier in downtown Austin. From the outside, it looked like a lifestyle magazine, exploded sleek black glass, motivational mantras etched in gold on the windows, and a massive vinyl banner of Raphael himself, stretching in perfect form across the front entrance. It looked expensive, which, according to the financial reports, absolutely was. I walked through the front doors, past walls painted with ALIN, breathe, conquer, and paused at the reception desk. A young man with a headset and clipboard looked up. Do you have an appointment? No, I said calmly. But Raphael will want to see me. Tell him Matthew Langford is here. A short wait. Then, a woman escorted me through a set of frosted glass doors into Raphael's office more like a showroom than a workspace. Minimalist furniture, diffused lighting, and that ever-present scent of sandalwood and branding. Raphael rose from his standing desk, all smiles and whitened teeth. He wore joggers that cost more than my first car. Matt, man didn't expect this, but let's talk. I didn't sit. Instead, I dropped a thick manila folder onto his desk. The sound cut the room in half. He frowned slightly, flipping it open. Inside, bank statements, digital signatures, asset summaries, forged documents. His name, Elena's name. My name was dragged into all of it without my consent. Do you know what this is? I asked, folding my arms. His face shifted. The confidence slipped. Look, Elena handled most of that. It was her business. No, Raphael, it was mine. You see, when Elena used our marriage to back your expansion, when she forged my signature to co-sign that equipment loan, and when she funneled marital assets into your fake LLC, she didn't just commit fraud, she tied you to it. He started pacing, palms up, shaking his head. Matt, I didn't know. I thought she had everything cleared. She didn't. And now that I've filed for divorce and obtained asset protection, guess what? Those guarantees, they're void. The moment our legal separation is finalized, the banks will come knocking, and they'll come for you. He looked up at me then, eyes wide with genuine fear for the first time. So what happens now? Nothing for me. I'm not coming after you. The banks will. The courts will. Your investors might too. I just came here so you wouldn't be blindsided when your world starts falling in on itself. I turned to leave, but paused at the door. There's one more thing. He raised his eyes. When Elena moved out, she took more than just money. She took things she didn't understand, things that mattered to me. Family photos. My father's watch. Old letters. I want them back. He nodded slowly. I'll talk to her. You do that. I left without another word. I didn't need to stay for the aftershocks. The detonation had already begun. The following evening, a courier delivered a nondescript box to my hotel. No note, no signature. Just the watch, a photo album, and the smell of old cedar wood from a drawer she never opened. It wasn't restitution, but it was acknowledgement. She had tried to erase me, but I was still here, and she was finally beginning to understand what that meant. 3 weeks later, I sat in a mediation room on the top floor of a law office in downtown Austin. Leather chairs, glass partitions, and cold water bottles lined up like ammunition. On the other side of the table, Elena walked in wearing a crisp white blazer and designer heels, her makeup immaculate, her posture rehearsed. But her eyes were tired. She didn't smile, not this time. Next to her was a man, her new attorney, in an expensive gray suit. Mine, Caroline's referral, sat beside me, cool, calm, and fully prepared. She opened a folder and slid a document across the table. No theatrics, just truth. "The bank has completed its internal investigation," she said, voice sharp but even. "They've confirmed that Miss Montrose forged Mr. Langford's signature on at least 3 loan documents, using marital assets to secure private business debts." Elena's attorney read the document, his expression flattening as the pages turned. Elena sat still, frozen. "If your client is willing to sign the proposed settlement today," my lawyer continued, "Mr. Langford is prepared to provide a formal statement to the bank affirming that he will not pursue additional charges for identity fraud, financial misconduct, or theft of personal property." Elena blinked. "Charges?" she said, voice barely audible. I looked at her. "I didn't bring the charges," I said. "The bank did. That's what happens when you lie on federal documents." The room went silent. Her attorney leaned in and whispered something. She shook her head once, then again slowly. This wasn't the script she'd written for herself. She had expected a man broken, desperate to negotiate. But I hadn't come here to plead. I'd come too close. After a long pause, she picked up the pen and signed. The terms were simple. She kept her design firm, car, and personal belongings. No alimony, no further claims. She was responsible for the business debts tied to her name and Rafael Torres. The marital estate was split, but only what had been disclosed. And as she'd soon learn, she hadn't even scratched the surface of my financial holdings. As we gathered our papers and prepared to leave, she reached across the tableau to stop me, but to speak. "I never thought you'd fight back," she said quietly. "You always just let things go." "That was a choice," I replied, "just like this one." And then I walked away. That evening, back in my new house, a modest 2-bedroom craftsman near South Lamari stood on the porch with a glass of rye whiskey in one hand and my father's old watch ticking gently on my wrist. It wasn't a victory, I felt. It wasn't revenge. It was something quieter, deeper. It was closure. Elena had underestimated the one thing she could never see. I had prepared for the fallout long before the first cracks formed. I had taken note of every shift in her tone, delayed return, and every lie she dressed in charm. And when the moment came, I didn't rage, I didn't collapse. I executed. She played her cards like I was a man too passive to fight. But I had spent a lifetime building systems designed to endure. While she posed for curated perfection, I laid the foundation for consequences. In the end, justice didn't come through confrontation. It went through the structure, through quiet resolve, through knowing the law better than the people trying to break it. And Rafael? His gym was repossessed 2 weeks later. Equipment stripped, lease terminated. A friend who followed his social media said he moved to Florida to start fresh. Of course he did. Elena moved to Scottsdale, where she rebranded her business and posted quotes about self-worth and owning your truth. But failure never posts selfies. They got to start over. And so did I. A month after mediation, I stood barefoot in the kitchen of a small house just outside Austin. Nothing fancy. It was just a weathered craftsman home with strong bones, a crooked fence, and a porch that creaked when the wind blew too hard. It didn't have her touch, and that was precisely why I chose it. The days that followed were quiet. The quiet you don't realize you've been craving until it wraps around you. No more late-night texts. No more calls from mutual friends trying to understand both sides. No more pretending that something fractured could still be functional. I filled the silence with action. I built bookshelves with my hands, repaired the back steps. I rewired the light over the sink. Every nail I hammered felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I didn't check social media. I didn't care what Elena was posting or what Rafael was rebranding. I had stopped measuring my worth in proximity to chaos. One Saturday, my sister Caroline stopped by with a box of cabinet hinges and 2 iced coffees. She watched me work silently for a few minutes, then asked, "Do you ever wish you'd taken her for more?" I paused, looked up and said, "She's already carrying more than I ever could have taken." We worked side by side for the rest of the afternoon. No noise but the sound of a drill, the occasional bark of a neighbor's dog, and the slow exhale of a house being made whole again. That night, I sat on the porch with a blanket across my lap and a bourbon in hand. The neighborhood was simple kids playing until dusk, porch lights flickering on one by one, laughter drifting lazily through open windows. It wasn't curated, it wasn't filtered, it was real. I thought about everything I had lost. Then I thought about everything I had finally let go of. This wasn't a comeback story. This was an escape from pretense, from performance, from pretending that love should cost you your peace. The next morning, I left a message with my office. letting them know I'd be taking a couple of weeks off. No itinerary, no plan, just the open road. I packed my truck, locked the front door, and drove north toward the Texas hills. And for the first time in years, I felt light, unburdened, free. I used to think strength looked like endurance, staying quiet, keeping peace, letting things go for the sake of love. But now I know my real strength is boundaries. It's recognizing when someone uses your loyalty as a weapon and having the courage to take it back. This story wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about betrayal. Not really. It was about identity, how easily you can lose it when you're too busy holding everything else together. I gave too much for long, hoping it would be seen, appreciated, and respected. But silence doesn't earn you love. It just makes you easier to ignore. If there's one thing I hope you take from this, it's this. You don't have to burn everything down to start over, but you do have to stop letting people set fire to what you've built. Prepare. Protect. And when the time comes, act with clarity, not emotion. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't chase. I just stood still and let the truth do the heavy lifting. And when it was over, I didn't walk away bitter. I walked away whole. Not because I won, but I remembered who I was before I started trying to prove it.